And welcome back. We're picking up where we left off last time in Songs of Six. I think the next thing we're going to try to do is build out some retirement communities. So basically, as we're beginning preparations to sort of retire the save, I think we give the locals here some capacity to also seek their own retirement. So yeah, places where I think we've got housing capacity and building capacity. We're going to go ahead and lay out some housing, or some rest homes. So the rest homes are, I think, going to be fairly simple to build. Not actually sure how square we want to make these. Oh, and these need dance floors, don't they? What size is dance floors? So we got a 16. Dance floors presumably are walkable over. So if I say plop thing at each corner of the dance floor is happy, okay. And then we need some carpets for the thing to be walkable. And I don't think carpets usually don't block building. You know, single ones like that along the walls are probably the way to go. Twitch chat saying, "Yo, bro, you have a YouTube series. I'd like to watch your run and see what you do in the early game and late lull." Yeah, so this is getting posted to YouTube. I am in the process of recording ahead for being out later in the month. So as a side effect, because it is recorded ahead, it might not be all the way up to date on YouTube. But yeah, so I'm streaming this live to Twitch under the username Wilcall. It's just used in Twitch chat. And then I'll be uploading the local recordings to Twitch under the username WillCole100. So that's hopefully enough information that you can find the YouTube channel at that point. Okay, and the plan here maybe is to round these out a bit. If I take the corner off like that, it's not going to be enough. No. Or that probably would be if I was able to exit the building. Because I need one flat area, at least for doors, right? I need that. Technically, that's actually better on the round standpoint. Although, do I need to make it perfect? Especially if I'm sharing sides. No, I don't need to make this perfect. I forget how it is. We're just gonna accept that that is how the building is. And then I need to place doors, one door in each one of these corners, so I can sort of megazzoid these up into larger shapes. Like so. It only stores 32, so it's actually fairly small. Copy area. Oops, copied too much of the copy area. Actually, I suppose we can do shift placed, because I want to move it slightly. So that's actually going to be 96. And then if I want to, I can sort of offset them and nest them like that for some fairly high density. I can even... Oops. can squeeze some humidifiers in there. And maybe some benches. Okay, see how that goes. So that's just short of 200. So that's actually enough so that I could retire the net on Java workforce here. Go. Add some roads in there. I'll make it, if I do area copy and paste, I'll make it a little bit easier to paste the whole thing. But yeah, we'll probably retire 200 people, probably bring 200 more people in, and then think about where we're going to put the next 200 so retirees. I think retirement maxes out when 20% of your population is retired. Of the population, yeah. Looks to be the right. Well, actually, I think it's 20% of the working population is retired. That does mean as we retire more people, we're going to have to grow the city a little bit. Let's see if we can get... so we can benefit from the 8 fulfillment that the retirees will provide. And these aren't too hard to build. Furniture and cloth, and we make a lot of cloth and we make a lot of furniture, so nice and easy. Oh, I can upgrade. While I'm thinking about it, let's upgrade those benches I put in there. Thing. And I am hoping to get temple happiness, temple fulfillment up to 95. It is trending up. We're at 92. Quality is, and quality is what's holding it back. So yeah, the change I did on the quality on the first temple is what's making the big difference. Now we get the training facility completely used up. Oh, and I suppose that means I don't have quite enough watch hours for what I'm doing, so I should probably actually bring another 100 or so in. Because I want to sort of stay in the 0 to 200 odd jobber window as we're doing this retirement, if I can. First one's almost done. There goes the first one. And apparently I had people old enough to retire. So it's already got takers. Oh, I have 82 people old enough to retire. But technically they have retired, just they weren't, you know, providing any happiness because they had no access, quality, or type retirement facility. I think we had enough for that one, so that one's actually going to fill up too. There we go. So we have enough facilities for all the retired. And then we'll have to change the retirement age so we can get some more retirees. I can put the next one over here. Not start and roof. I don't want to delete the whole thing. I want to move it. Copy paste. Oh, that works pretty well. So the old people have great access to the major temples to go worship at. We now have rest home capacity for 192. So let's turn up turn down the retirement age so we have that many. There we go. Okay, so with the previous retirees, we're going to go up another 50. Place the odd jobbers. So let's just get some more food in both these areas. So let's copy and paste our meat warehouse a couple times. And the fish warehouse. And then we'll add a couple food stalls because the regions with those are going to get people living in them probably. So a little bit more food locally available would not be a terrible thing. Twitch chat saying, if my laboratory, for example, doesn't have 100% access, does it matter where I build another one, or is access just capacity? So it does matter where you build it. So access is sort of the average expectation of their walking distance to capacity. So poor access could mean that they're just where their closest item is really far away from them, or that there isn't capacity at the one that they're closest to. So it's not necessarily just capacity, or it's not necessarily just location. It might be one or both. Let me find an industry that I often don't have enough capacity here. So here's an example. I have a bunch of wells. If we go look at the service requirement for wells, I'm probably not doing a very good job at meeting all my well requirements. Where are wells on here? There's wells. So we have 80% fulfillment of wells. And you can see I've got 94% access. And I've got 72% proximity. So in my case, I have enough capacity, and it's spread out enough that they all have access to it. So they all have capacity and access to it. You should notice the second number there is proximity. So in this case, it is going to matter where I put it. Although in my case, it's mostly going to matter because I'm just short on capacity, right? Most of my wells are full service maxed out. They are the odd one that isn't maxed out. So usually when you click on a service, usually when you want to figure out where you want to put another one, is go around, look for where you see red. Red is an indication that someone in here wanted to use a service, and there was not one in travel distance that had excess capacity. So you can see, and this is why I have proximity problems. It's not necessarily that I don't have enough wells. I probably have enough wells to keep everyone happy. That's why my capacity is high enough. My accessibility is high enough. But I don't have it distributed well enough, right? I've got wells which are half empty, only being half used, and I have other ones that are full, overused. So I don't have I have a proximity problem. I don't have a the word for it right now. I've got a proximity problem, not an access problem. Although I do have a slight access problem. I've got 96% instead of full. So it would matter where I put it, because I presumably need to put it in places where my proximity is low. And vice versa. If you have terrible access but you've got decent proximity, that just means that everyone that's able to access the ones that exist don't have a great travel time. And you might have plenty of capacity there, but there's not service in their area. And again, we'll use the well example. If you click on the well, you can see the circle around the well that is white and red doesn't go out infinitely. Right, so the people over here, it doesn't matter that I've got wells. They can't get there. Yeah, as Twitch is saying, yeah, it's damn hard to do everything well. No pun intended. Yeah. Especially as you sort of city sprawl and you reach the point where it's like, well, I need another well in here. Where do I have the space? The other reason I'm having issues with wells, and this is something that I could do that wouldn't actually to help well fulfillment, that wouldn't actually help necessarily, or wouldn't involve necessarily putting out more wells. But one of the reasons people use wells is because they're hot, and I'm in a tropical climate here, so the tropical climate is driving people to use the wells more often. There's a couple different ways to deal with weather-related things. One is you can turn up your clothing. You can see that there's heat resist, there's cold resist. If you turn up your clothing, they get more heat resist, so they'll be less needing to use the wells during hot weather. Another one is to make better access to skinny dipping. So that's providing access to things like rivers for them to go take a dive in. Also adding better access to pools. So instead of going and using a well, they can go take a dip in the pool. And I haven't necessarily been working very well on those either. So I'm sort of intentionally, the wells are very efficient service buildings. I'm overstressing the well system because I'm underusing wells and bathhouses, or underusing pools and bathhouses and clothing. Okay, so our new batch of rest homes are done, so we can have another 200 or so people retire. Occupation. And we raise the retirement age until 200 more are of retirement age. And to max this out, you need 1.5k retirees. We're going to need more people moving in, so it's time for another 200 so to move in. Revise the odd jobbers to be building more retirement facilities. We can put over there next. Or no, I'm going to keep using this one for a bit. It's this one again. Oh, I don't have, because that's the bottom of the map. Yeah, let's desolate that way. But when it comes to providing fulfillment, which is what you're trying to do to keep happiness up. In this case, I have a couple titles that's making it a little bit easier to keep the happiness up, so I don't have to quite meet fulfillment with expectations. Every point of fulfillment is roughly replaceable with a different point of fulfillment. So usually the trick is find easy sources of fulfillment and do those well first. So there's maybe an argument that I should be trying to do the wells a little bit better. Because wells are fairly easy to do. Although, like, 80% yield on level 3 wells is pretty good. Better if it was like 90 plus, but 80, 85 is acceptable. Skinny dipping sort of access to, I think, mainly the river. It might also apply to pools as well. It might be that I need to bring the pools in the interior. Apparently don't have access to toilets. What's the toilet map looking like? Oh, the retirement community doesn't have a toilet. Yeah, I probably should put in one over there. Same over here. Able to use toilets. And then I probably should do the same on markets. I should click one of my markets, see what the market map looks like. So that's probably why I don't have good market coverage. This whole neighborhood over there not covered by market. Markets are mostly for housing furniture, so you want them around your housing. So yeah, I think it's just that one neighborhood. Probably could use another one up there. Yeah, down there definitely needs a market. Let's even bring another 50 in. Just to maintain the odd jobber pool. Okay, all the stuff's been delivered, so they're just gonna come around, assemble the furniture. And we can retire another 200 or so people. Mostly assembled. On hammer hit on a building. You're done, you're done. Okay, those ones are done. So time to add another 200 retirees. Let me double check. 608. So we're aiming for 608 retirees. $606 is close enough. One reason is because I've got a demographic that's very heavily sloping down. So as we expand the retirement facilities, those clicks are going to become bigger and bigger and bigger in effect. And then we can have another... About a second, have another 200 come in. I don't actually have that many inspiring immigrants. We'll start building the community. And I'll come back and... Well, as it expands, we're going to bring more odd jobbers in, so... Oh, I suppose I put the spacing a little bit too big on that one. It'll be fine. I don't need to be that picky about the spacing. So instead of having a one-wide road in the middle, we have a two-wide in the middle over there. Let's try to let another 50 in. So we have some odd jobbers. Okay, let's turn the training up a little bit on this unit. So we can keep the training yards full, either training replacements or improving the quality of the garrison. I don't think we're quite big enough yet, although we're probably sneaking up on the level where I need to raise another 200 guys to keep the desired troop ratio. Oh, in fact, actually, I'm actually under it. Okay. Let's do that then. So, edit, new unit. Oh, not unit. Create, new unit. Full 200. Moment with no equipment. And then I'm going to turn your training back to 10%. Mostly already trained. Twitch chat's asking, how many training slots do I have in my city? Right now, and that was visible when I was clicking on the menu here. We have 200 training slots for melee ground, or melee training slots. So we got 200 training grounds. They're basically unupgraded. If you're going a little bit heavier into military, like higher quality troops, you probably want to improve the training grounds. I'm just sort of running quantity over quality over here, so we've got 200. 200 is enough to maintain the sort of size of army that I have. Which means if I'm fully using the training grounds, we've got 200 people of my city training at any given time. And that's roughly enough to maintain 2,000-ish guys under arms for militia duty. You want to do an aggressive playthrough this time? I would like to conquer sooner. So I didn't start with 200. I think we started... Where's the original training ground? I never disassembled the original one. Although it's pretty small. So originally I started with 20. Did you raise an army to start expanding in your early game, or did you use mercenaries? I did raise an army. I tend to find generating the money to afford mercenaries a bit prohibitive in the current patch. Oops. What's that decision? Cult founded of me. You know, we'll legalize it. So all our people are really happy about it. The neighbors are a little bit careful. Your new cult heeds your hasty alterations to the creed. You now occupy an intentionally poorly defined position in the pantheon. They will still be part of the faith. With time, it will surely spread. While they might be fanatically loyal now, they still have their limits, and you are not the only one who has an understanding of theology. Turn out to be a subpar incarnation or a flawed reflection of their object of worship. Instead, they might still act against you. Tars, the origin of the court, were much more loyal, but other regions are unlikely to adopt the new faith fully. So how big was the army when I started? How big was it? I think it was only 100 or only 200 big. I think it was the these two units were 100 size each. And that was just used, I think we just we trespassed through a guy and we took over this territory down here. Was how we started. And then that army, actually at that point, once we'd taken over this region, we used this region to recruit regional troops. And the city troops were returned. So the army I have... Oh, this isn't the original army. The original army got destroyed in the World War. So when you go back to watch the playlist on YouTube, there's a World War. Basically, almost every neighbor... All but one of my neighbors declared war on me at the same time. It was a hectic moment. But yeah, once I had my first region, I did regional recruiting from then on out. So I have a field army. This is the field army. And I have a militia that sort of guards the town. Yeah, you have to keep an army at the town until the loyalty is stable. Because usually when you take over a place, it has devastation and low loyalty. So you want to keep it there until your loyalty is like over 50 and the devastation's gone. Or in the case of the Garthimi here, because I was running humidifiers. The Garthimi have a lot of loyalty, so I often just need to keep troops in a region long enough to get rid of everyone who isn't Garthimi. Sort of. So loyalty goes up if the opinion average of all the races, I believe, is positive, weighted by their population size. So that's why you might want to keep your army in a region, is the army provides a massive opinion or loyalty buff for being in the region. So if you can get the region loyal enough, then the support will go up, and if the support goes up high enough, and the support and loyalty goes up high enough, then you don't have to be worried about revolting, And usually with small towns, it's relatively easy to keep them happy enough once you've got the loyalty up that you can take off the troops. Yeah, you can just kill the other races off. I wouldn't bother unless you're going to use humidifiers. The building the humidifier, is the Garthimi, is really, really powerful because it is a building that has a pretty good workforce to region capacity ratio, provides a massive loyalty buff to Garthimi, provides a massive loyalty debuff to everyone else. So if you're the Garthimi, then this is a really good building. But if you kill everyone else off, you pretty much have to kill them off everywhere. The massacre button here, the tooltip's spamming you with information you don't need to know here. Because it's showing you as if you'd click the button for all of them here, but it provides a loyalty and pop target minus 100 for massacre for the type that you click it for. And then the loyalty modifier is for the entire realm. So if you're going to kill the Talapi off somewhere, you're going to have to kill them off everywhere. You're going to kill the Mivians off somewhere, you're going to have to kill them off everywhere. So it usually only pays off to do this when you're running the Garthimi, because then you're going to combo with the humidifiers. So you're getting rid of all the people who hate the humidifiers, so that their terrible opinion of the humidifiers doesn't matter, is usually how you handle that. Anyway, if you want to do you can definitely do a humanoidal empire. You just don't have the strong benefit of the humidifier. The humidifier is really strong. You'll have to basically just run growth and hygiene and eventually irrigation to get a city big enough. So you just can't get your cities quite as big as these ones are. So I'm running a save here. We're pretty much at the end of the save where I've got 1, 2, and 3 metropolises. Honestly, I'd have more, but I don't have enough government points. I've sort of run out of government points here. And we're not going to build the main city up big enough in this run to get more government points. But yeah, we got some. Frankly, we've got cities that are bigger than the capital, using the power of the humidifiers. But when you're doing it as a human, although you can, if you have a city with this level of moisture, you could do it with without the humidifiers. You just run growth and hygiene. Max level hygiene is about the same. It requires more workforce, so you have less workforce for other stuff. Oh, I don't have enough capacity for my derange. That's maybe where some of my workforce is going. Let's grab another asylum. Oh yeah, that didn't fit down there, did it? Okay. I'll put an asylum there. If you buy stone and wood to make spears and sell the spears, you lose money. I think that depends upon the prices that you have in your game. What am I getting? Sell price for my spears are 241. I'm not selling them, but the 241. Stone is 5. Wood is 23. What is the production ratio here? To find the carpenter. That's a tailor. That's not a carpenter. There's a carpenter. So now I should be able to find my spear maker. There we go. The recipe ratio is 2 and 2.5 to half. So it'd be 10 stone. So it's like 60 resources to get something that sells for 240. Yeah, it might be more profitable. Click on here again, I can check the metal recipe. 1 wood, and 40.4 metal. Apparently there's a metal shortage in my game, so metal is probably not the thing to be, in my game, for example, would not be the thing to be importing to make the spears out of. Although I have a suspicion why there's a metal. I've been buying a bunch of metal. That's why the metal price is mine. Yeah, so the thing to be careful with when you're doing lots of importing and exporting is you can influence the prices really heavily if you're not careful. Which I think I've done. This is why like, oh yeah, no, it'd be fine to import stone and wood to make spears. And metal probably, assuming you are making it out of the raw materials. I don't know if necessarily making it out of metal straight would be the way to go. I think I probably want to import the coal and the ore, make that into metal, and then the metal into spears. You probably want to have a monopoly over the entire chain. That makes much sense. We got up to 800 in the rest homes. Let's get a little more retirement. I'm actually losing most of my population growth to insanity. And then on this map, I think the thing I'm exporting, well, the things I'm trying to export on this map is I'm exporting gems, I'm exporting Scythian ore, well, I was originally mining stone. At this point, I'm taxing it out of the Empire. But that was the original export, was cut stone. Because the Garthimi have like a 125% modifier to cutting stone. So I basically had vertical integration. I have vertical integration on the stuff I'm exporting. At least stuff I think I'm exporting profitably. Oh, and because I'm getting so much stone, I've set up an export route on stone. That probably means my stone's cheaper than it should be. Because I've deflated the price in everyone else's territory. Am I both exporting and importing paper? Oh, some days I'm importing, some days I'm exporting. Okay. Where is my exporter if I'm exporting paper? I think the paper exporting thing is a hangover from when I was doing, still am, running embassies. Where is the... And, of course, when running the embassy, I didn't need that much paper. Exporting it. That's an import depot. I'm looking for an export depot. There's an export depot. Yes, I have paper exports. And I have paper exports at exactly the same number where we import. Okay, let's put a little bit more distance between those two, please. So we can bounce around the exports here. So, cut stone, livestock, pots, paper. If paper levels get relatively high. Scythian ore, gems, and at some point, because of all the stone taxes I had coming in, I put stone on as export. I'd probably put wood on export, same sort of logic. Although apparently I'm making so much paper at this point, I actually need more wood. Okay. That buffs your output. You don't make wood, you don't make wood. Another one's over here. I think it was one of the ones over here that made wood. You just have the one? No, I have multiple wood input ports. Oh, it's just those two. So it's you and you. So I just added the windmill to you for the wood buff. Windmill, I believe, is 50% yield buff to woodcutters. So should we get 50% more wood tax? And then you already had it. Okay. Yeah, that put us over 1,000 positive in wood. Kuchan's asking, is it worth it to have a loading station deposit bread from my baker to my center hub near my food stalls, even if it's not that far of distance, compared to just having the warehouse workers go grab it? So that depends. It also depends on how you say not that far of distance. So the workers loading the... So logistic workers in general. So warehouse workers, haulers, loading station workers. Pick up and carry goods by default twice the normal amount. Some races is a little bit lower, some races a little bit higher. But by default, it's twice the normal amount. So you always want a logistic worker to do hauling. You don't necessarily want the food stalls to be doing it. Now, whether or not you want to go to a full loading station, unloading station setup is whether or not you think it's going to be worth loading 400 or something on a loading station and delivering it somewhere. Because that's what the wagon train is going to carry each trip. So the guy who's bringing the wagon train along is very efficient. He's worth like 50 workers for his trip. But the loading into the loading station and the unloading from the unloading station aren't that level of efficient. So you've got to have the distance between the loading and the loading station be enough to warrant loading. And unloading to your station, and being outside because you're taking the double spoilage rate. So it can be a little bit more complicated. It also depends on how much you're pushing, right? You don't necessarily want it sitting at the loading station because you only use like 50 of something a day, so it's going to sit there for 8 days before the loading station gets full to move to the location. So it depends on how much you're transporting as well. I'd probably say if you're trying to move something like 400 something a day, then loading stations are really good. Conversely, and that's 400 to a location a day, not from a location. So on this map, I was thinking we were going to use loading stations and unloading stations, and then I never built them. Primarily because they ended up getting an empire, and the empire started paying taxes, and the tax collectors show up with wagon trains. And those were the items that I needed to move in hundreds of quantities, was the stuff the wagon trains were bringing in from the taxes. So if I just let the stockpile like this just overflow, the wagon train would usually deliver it where I need it. But yeah, so the answer is that's a complicated question. I have to physically see the distances involved and the quantities involved to really give a good answer. Drew says, you have to actively accept and deal with the logistics of tax items. You don't. The tax items get brought in on what is effectively a loading train wagon. And it'll go, when it comes on the map, it's going to have selected the location where it's going to drop stuff. So it'll go to that location and it'll unload all its items. in some extreme cases, it'll load all the items and then start dump the rest on the floor because it's going to dump all its stuff. Which is I can probably show you the example around the throne room. So if you don't have adequate storage, this is what ends up happening. Is they'll just chuck tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff on the floor right outside your throne room. So the important thing to remember when you want the tax items to be delivered where you want is to put a warehouse where you want the tax item to be stored, because the tax deliverer, we'll say the tax collector, will go to a warehouse and dump stuff. If there's no warehouse with empty space, it'll go to the throne and dump stuff. So try to put warehouses where you want the tax collectors to be delivering taxes to. Which is why, for example, if we go find this is my main carpentry area. So in the middle of the main carpentry area, I have a warehouse. And in that warehouse, I have lots of crates for wood storage. So the tax collector every once in a while will come along and just fill the warehouse up with wood. And then all the carpentry locations around it will go get wood from that warehouse to do their carpentry. And then I don't necessarily need a lot of carpentry around the town. I say that, and the city uses 400-something furniture. But in fact, that actually probably gives you a good idea of why I'm not running any loading stations in here. The whole city uses 480 furniture. So that's probably about the right amount for a loading station to load, but that's not the right amount to send anywhere. No one place in the city needs 400 furniture. The city collectively needs 400 furniture, but no one place in the city needs furniture that much. So side effect, whenever I find, in this city at least, whenever I find I need something, like usually a janitor, click on a janitor and go like, okay, what this janitor having problems with? I'll end up setting up a holer next to the janitor, and its job is to go grab the thing the janitor's having a problem with. So, for example, this janitor was having problems with finding the swords to maintain the Grand Arena, for example. So we have a holer who has been told to go grab swords from the sword warehouse to bring here so the janitor has swords. And I literally need one pile of swords for the janitor to be happy. Same thing with cutstone. We've got a holer here whose one task is to make sure the janitor has his cutstone. And yeah, you're bringing up a good example, right? One situation where the loading, unloading station combo works really well is when you're moving hundreds of items a day. The biggest example where that frequently happens is farms. So fiber farms, grain farms, fruit farms, veggie farms. I'm Garthimi, so I'm doing less farming. All my farming is to make rations. Right, I don't need a loading unloading station for my fisheries. I don't need loading unloading stations for the multicolored breeders. Although the multicolored breeders, they're spread all out, and the fisheries, at this point, the fisheries are ornamental because most of it's coming from the Texas. In fact, that's actually arguably almost the case with the meat production as well. It's mostly coming in by Texas. But yeah, food production is usually the thing that you're going to load, unload the most. Because it's the only thing you're working in that much quantity. Very early on. Another thing is if you're doing mining, if you got like a mining colony, and you're not putting your processing for the product of the mine near where your population is, say you wanted to put your population near the farmland, which is a reasonable thing to do. You might mine the thing, load it onto a loading station, move the product to wherever you're doing your refining, say stone and cut stone. You might move it to where the cut stone, the masons are. That's another place where you probably do loading and unloading. It's just in my case, outside of grain, to be fair, most of my again, grain on map has reached the point where I actually kind of don't need the grain on the map. I'm getting most of it from taxes. And the grain on map's mostly ornamental. It's left over from when I farmed earlier and when I needed it earlier. But yeah, this is like the amount of grain I've actually got coming in. This is probably the appropriate amount where you might want to loading station the grain to transport it to a centralized bakery if you had a centralized bakery. In my case, I've got decentralized bakeries, so the bakeries are right next to where the grain is. because I get to pick where my effectively demand of that process is, right? Rations are getting stored to be shipped to the army. So I'm doing grain into bread, the bread into rations, the rations to the army. No one in town actually eats it, so I can put the consumer supplier whole line wherever I need it. So I'm not using loading stations, unloading stations. Yeah, taxes. If you the hard part of this game is getting to the point where you can run off of taxes. Because if you can get there, you're good. Squalor. Conyx is usually fertile enough to sustain its population's own, but a string of bad harvests has emptied its granaries. It will be nice to lower taxes. So I get half yield from that region for the moment. That might be a problem if I'm actually making use of Conyx. Where is Conyx? Ah. Yeah, no, they're literally just paying taxes. That's all they do is pay taxes. Feel free to... I said I'd lower their taxes. I'll try to raise their taxes. Give me more taxes. You think your last playthrough fell apart because I was at 3.5k with no new territory and my city was struggling to do everything on its own? Yeah, I can understand that being a potential bottleneck. I think this is the third game I've streamed. Every game I stream of Songs of Six, I go just that little bit farther, learn a little bit of lessons from the last one, get the city just that little bit bigger. So this is the biggest one. This one is stably over 8k. In fact, this one's at 9k population. The last one kissed 8k before exploding, and then the one before that I think only got up to like 6.5k. And then before that one, I think I was barely making 3.5k. So before I started streaming. So don't feel bad if you're on your first run or umpteenth run and you're still having trouble getting past 3.5k. It took me watching a lot of videos to feel confident enough to stream this, and actually make it past 3.5k. So that if you can make it to 3.5k, you're actually doing pretty good. A lot of people struggle around 1,000. Which is usually when you need to start doing healthcare. So 1,000 is when you need to start doing law and order. So you need to start whatever your law and order is, and usually when you want to take the dash down to physicians before X from health physicians, and when you're at about 1,000 population, it's real strong, real useful. And 1,000 is probably when I'd actually be thinking about grabbing more territory as well, so. And then that would be more in a can I, not should I. In a lot of situations, if you can, you should. When it comes to more population. And more territory. You could do it as early as 650, I suppose, because that's when you get nobles. I wouldn't try to get more territory before you have nobles. Suppose one way I could get some more odd jobbers is I could go buy some more slaves. How many slaves do I have actually right now? For humans. 700. Okay, could definitely do with more human slaves. Oh, you have no human slaves to sell. Can't buy them from you. Buy them from you. Can't buy them from you. You have no humans either. There we go. There's some humans. By like 100 humans. As I've said a couple times in this run, we are not playing the good team. We are very much evil in this run. Oh, and then let me double check the housing. Oh, I need more housing. Need more housing for there. A couple different ways to do housing. The way I'm going to do it first is I'm going to take advantage of room upgrades. Improve housing density. What's another 8 people per long house in these areas? That should help. You can see the yellow starting to go away. I might still want to build more housing around here because we finish to put more retirees over there. And we've got 2 people unhoused, 1 people unhoused. And it's a retired folk trying to live in the retirement home over there. Okay. Taking another 50 of those guys in. I don't think our 100 human slaves have arrived. So the construction's going a little bit slow because I'm just short on odd jobbers at the moment. And the reason I'm going for human slaves, the humans are sort of specialized in the thing the Garthimians are the worst at, which is research, administration, and laboratory work. Which does result in the weird fact that I'm running most of the administration off of the human slaves. That's surely not going to come to bite us in the butt later, right? Gurjat saying, I do need to get a stone mining outpost early to get stone for spears, or should I be trying to export something for profit to buy stone? Ooh, that is very much a question of what do you have for your map? Because it depends on what resources you have in your map. If you've got adequate access to trees, you're playing a race that's reasonably good at making furniture, maybe it would make sense to export furniture to buy stone. If you've got easy access to clay, we had reasonable access to clay, for example. The clay mine's disabled, but I still have the clay mine here. If you got reasonable access to clay, you could mine clay and make pottery out of that. Pottery is a really good export resource. Use the exports for that to buy your stone. I think in the last city I had good access to coal and iron, and it was right next to the mountain. So most of the time when I was expanding the Dondorian housing, I was carving the mountain up. So that generated a bunch of stone, incidentally. But my sort of background stone production for a very long time was me exporting metal and tools and buying stone for all the masonry and stuff that I was making. So, um, the answer to do you need to make a stone mining outpost is it depends upon what resources you have, um, and what you can do with your map. Um, this was a map where, well, actually, technically, I was importing the stone on this map, running the masonry, selling the mason, so selling the cut stone to buy the stone to feed the masonry until I could get the stone mine going. And this is not even a stone outpost. This is, as you can see, this is the throne up here. So I didn't have to have an outpost for my stone outpost. Yeah, the stone's really short. It's very much of what can you reasonably export. Also what do you have for neighbors? Because if you've got tiny neighbors, they might not be able to buy enough stuff from you. Without having the price shoot up or the price shoot down or whatever, right? So you have to have appropriate neighbors to make that work. And there's lots of factors that come into play. Lots of different ways to do it. And lots of different opportunities, right? If you end up with neighbors that are like, okay, they're not good neighbors for trading with because they're so weak, so small, then often the answer might be, well, then you're invading your neighbors. And then it also depends on your map, and how far the stone outpost is. What's big? What's big? Early game, like two territories is reasonable, right? So these guys have got about 10k population. That was reasonable when I was a small city. And at that point, I actually had two neighbors. This guy, this territory here was also a neighbor. I was actually sandwiched between two. Of course, trespassing on this guy eventually pissed that guy off. And then real big is like 200,000, 300,000. We've got some big neighbors. Or I've got some big neighbors in this game. But this is why often when I need something, I just go running over this person. 300,000, almost 400,000 population, and go like, hey, I want something. And they're gonna have it. They're gonna have it in the volume I want. And because they have it in the volume I want, they're not gonna charge me an arm and a leg for it. On the other hand, the trade relations have broken down. So this is all manual trading with them. That's another thing you can remember you can do, is you don't necessarily have to have friendly relations with people to trade small one-off quantities of stuff. Ooh, that's interesting. We're finally reaching the size where I need more ways to keep people healthy. Okay. Well, I think this is where we're going to bring this one to a close. Looking at the time, we're up over an hour for this YouTube recording, and up over 4 hours for the stream, so it is about time I bring the stream to a close. I'm not going to go solve the health problem. The answer to this health problem at the moment is probably just raise food servings. The city's so big, it's time that I need to raise food servings from 2 to 2.5. Because yeah, my population modifier has gone so terribly at this point. I need to. Well, I thought I need to be much more aggressive at keeping corpses under control. But yeah, I hope everyone has been enjoying. I think this is where we're going to bring this into a close, or this run to a close. I think at the end we didn't end up picking up. What was it? Sea of the Gods. Didn't pick up Sea of the Gods in this run. But yeah, I think we picked up all the titles we're going to realistically pick up. We've got Astra. Don't think I have enough time here in this run before the new patch comes out in version 1. Or version 71 on June 15th, because I'm gonna have upcoming travel. So this is probably where this city is going to come to a close. If you're watching on Twitch, you've got any more comments before I bring the stream to a close? Now's a good time to ask them before I bring the stream down. If you're watching later on YouTube, because I am uploading this to YouTube, although I am recording ahead at this point in preparation for the travel. So this part is going to come up after the patch drops. So if you're watching this YouTube and this looks different than what your version does, that is probably why I'm running on the previous version. I'm still on version 70. So yeah. And so feel free to leave comments. I am going to be putting a save in here, so I'll mentally put a save in here. There probably will be a way that I can roll back to an old patch if I need to. If you're watching this on YouTube, so stream 7 end. I think it's 7. There we go. So with that, I'm going to wish everyone on YouTube, or everyone on YouTube, the best of luck and good time until the next part and/or stream. And bye for now.